Welcome to Your English Book. Today, we're diving into the incredible story behind the USA's Independence Day, a celebration of freedom. Let's uncover the spirit of America's journey to independence together. The Independence Day in the United States, celebrated every year on July 4th, marks the historic adoption of the Declaration of Independence by the Continental Congress in 1776. This important document announced that the 13 American colonies were no longer willing to be ruled by Great Britain and declared themselves free and independent states. Before this, the colonies had been part of the British Empire, but tensions grew as the colonies objected to British laws and taxes imposed without their consent. The colonies wanted to govern themselves and have the freedom to make their own decisions. On June 11, 1776, the Continental Congress formed a committee of 5 important leaders: Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Robert R. Livingston, and Roger Sherman. Their job was to write a statement explaining why the colonies wanted to break away from British rule. Thomas Jefferson wrote the first draft of this declaration, carefully explaining the reasons for independence. After several discussions and changes, the Congress officially adopted the Declaration on July 4, 1776. This document boldly stated that all people are created equal and have rights that cannot be taken away, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It made clear that when a government becomes unfair or abusive, the people have the right to change or remove it. The Declaration of Independence was then shared widely. It was read aloud in cities and towns, inspiring hope and courage. The delegates knew the risks they took, declaring independence was an act of rebellion punishable by death, but they believed freedom was worth fighting for. Since then, July 4th has been celebrated as Independence Day, a day to honor American freedom, democracy, and the brave actions of those who fought for the nation's independence. The day is marked by fireworks, parades, music, and speeches, reminding everyone of the United States' journey to becoming a free country. The road to America's Independence Day began with growing problems between the American colonies and England, especially over an issue called taxation without representation. This meant the British government was making the colonies pay taxes but was not giving them any say or voice in how those taxes were decided or used. The colonists believed this was unfair because they were forced to pay money to a government where they had no representatives or ability to vote. This problem started after the costly French and Indian War, which Britain had fought to protect the colonies. To pay off war debts, the British Parliament passed laws that taxed goods in the colonies, such as the Stamp Act of 1765, which required colonists to buy special stamps for paper products. The colonists protested strongly because they never had any representatives in the British Parliament when these taxes were decided. They felt their rights as Englishmen were being violated. Over time, protests grew in the colonies. Colonists held meetings, formed groups like the Sons of Liberty, and organized boycotts of British goods to refuse to pay the taxes. One famous protest was the Boston Tea Party in 1773, where American colonists dumped an entire shipment of British tea into Boston Harbor to oppose the Tea Act tax. Tensions escalated further until open fighting broke out between British soldiers and colonial militias at Lexington and Concord in April 1775. These battles marked the start of the American Revolutionary War. As conflict continued, the colonies united to seek full independence from British rule. On June 7, 1776, Richard Henry Lee proposed a formal Declaration of Independence. The Continental Congress tasked a committee to write the declaration, ultimately leading to the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776. No taxation without representation was one of the key grievances that pushed the colonies toward revolution and freedom. It symbolized the fight for self-government and the right to have a voice in laws and taxes, a fight that shaped the birth of the United States. On June 11, 1776, the Second Continental Congress appointed a special committee of 5 members to draft a formal declaration of independence from Britain. This important committee included some of the most respected leaders of the time: Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Robert R. Livingston, and Roger Sherman. Thomas Jefferson was chosen to write the first draft because he was known for his eloquence and strong writing skills. He worked quickly and carefully, producing a draft that explained the reasons the colonies wanted to become independent. His draft emphasized natural rights such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and it condemned the British king for unfair laws and actions against the colonists. Once Jefferson completed the draft, he shared it with the other committee members, Benjamin Franklin and John Adams, who suggested some important changes to improve the language and tone. After revising, the committee presented this draft to the Continental Congress on June 28, 1776. The Congress then debated and edited Jefferson's draft for several days. They removed some parts that were considered too controversial at the time, such as the part criticizing King George III for supporting slavery, to gain broader support from all the colonies. They also shortened and clarified some passages to make the message stronger and clearer. Finally, after careful discussion and changes, the Declaration of Independence was officially adopted on July 4, 1776. This document boldly announced that the 13 American colonies were now free and independent states, no longer under British rule. It laid the foundation for the new nation's government and freedoms, and its powerful words have inspired people around the world ever since. Though Jefferson later felt some sadness over the edits made to his original draft, the final declaration became a majestic and enduring symbol of American freedom and democracy. The Declaration of Independence was first read publicly on July 8, 1776, in Philadelphia, the very city where it was created and adopted. On that day, crowds gathered to hear the formal announcement that the 13 American colonies had declared themselves free and independent from British rule. The reading was a moment of great significance and was marked by joyful celebrations. Bells rang throughout the city, and music filled the streets. People rejoiced with parades and fireworks, marking the beginning of a new era for the people of America. The celebrations continued to grow in size and enthusiasm. By the following year, on July 4, 1777, Philadelphia hosted one of the first official Independence Day events. Ships in the harbor were decorated with flags, cannons roared salutes, and a grand meal was shared among citizens. As night fell, fireworks brightened the sky, symbolizing liberty and hope. Since then, July 4th has been celebrated every year across the United States with various festivities that include parades, concerts, family gatherings, barbecues, and colorful fireworks displays. It is a day of patriotic pride where Americans honor their freedom, democracy, and the sacrifices made by the nation's founders and heroes. The celebrations serve as a reminder of the country's journey to independence and the enduring values of liberty and self-governance. Today, cities large and small keep this tradition alive with community events, flag raisings, and public readings of the Declaration of Independence, ensuring that the spirit of July 4th continues to inspire future generations. Though the formal decision to declare independence was actually voted on and passed by the Continental Congress on July 2, 1776, it is July 4th that became the date remembered and celebrated as Independence Day. This is because July 4th marks the day when the final version of the Declaration of Independence was officially approved by Congress and publicly announced. John Adams, one of the leading figures of the Revolution, famously wrote to his wife Abigail that July 2nd would be the most memorable epoch in the history of America and expected it to be celebrated as the great anniversary. However, it was the date when the Declaration document was formally adopted and printed on July 4th that Americans chose to commemorate. The printed declaration was distributed widely and became the symbol of America's new beginning. The Declaration of Independence laid out the reasons why the colonies were breaking away from British rule and boldly declared that all men are created equal with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This powerful statement established the foundation for the principles of freedom, self-governance, and democracy in the new nation. Since then, July 4th has been celebrated annually as a day of national pride, liberty, and unity. It is a day to honor the courage and sacrifices of those who fought for freedom and to remember the values upon which the United States was founded. Parades, fireworks, speeches, and patriotic events across the country keep the spirit of July 4th alive as a powerful symbol of American independence and identity.